Hmm, muted as well. Right. Today's session has started off as a bit of a train wreck. So firstly, my screen was not fully aligned and we had mic issues, but hopefully we're all good and set to go. Um, Quickly going to repeat what I said before I unmuted, and that is I'm Carmen, one of the freedom modelers here at Firestorm. And we'll be continuing our environment today, per usual. We always work on our environment because environments are fun, I guess. Right, so this is sort of where we left off last time. Let's say the eventual plan is to have a bit of a bridge here, and possibly up here as well. We'll see how we implement that. But bottom line is that is the goal. All right, so some other things we've covered so far, and that is we've got a tower, we've got a lantern, and we've got three halfway done houses. We will be revisiting them at some stage, probably not today though, but at some point. So something I'm starting to keep in mind is I'm a little bit concerned that stylistically these pieces won't slot in with each other. The reality of the matter is I've been using different references for each component. However, with the same textures, and if we implement some different shaped areas, we might be able to combine them in some way. So we'll take a look at that at some point. Just getting them, I don't know, back on track, so to speak. So, right, let's get into things. Again, we are working on the bridge, which I've not named. So let's quickly do that. And that is going to be bridge. This is the more detailed bridge than I initially anticipated making, or at least initially planned for. So we'll need to bear that in mind. Maybe we simplify it down the line. We'll see how we do it and when we do it and so on and so forth. So sort of where we left off last time is this area is not quite functional. It's not working in the way I wanted it to. Initially, we had it like this, with where the inner corners just plain, and quite frankly, I find that to be too boring. I felt like we maybe needed to add just a little bit more detail to get it to a level I'm happy with, at least in comparison to the other models. So I think we'll get that in place. We did do some rough organization last time. Apparently I have not done a very good job of it, but it has a baseline level of organization, which we can further refine. But I know roughly what's going on here. I say that while knowing full well I will be struggling for the first 10 minutes figuring out what I did last time. But right, let's get on track. So we've got this boolean, right? And that goes into a poly extrude, that gives us that gets extruded outwards, etc., 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 which then gets booleaned into here. All right. This gets booleaned specifically into our sweep, which is brilliant. However, if we look at our initial boolean, which we can find here, and we template this one, you can sort of see where I'm going with this. This boolean is not large enough to accommodate the detailing we added to this archway. So we sort of have to think about this a little bit. We've got one of two options. We can either make the initial boolean bigger, or alternatively, we could make this sweep smaller. So this is based upon this. And what I quickly want to check, not got a transform here, got the transform here. This is actually making the archway slightly bigger, but we're not going to fix this by making it smaller. I say that, but we might. Let's quickly see what we can do. I'm starting to think might be easier to make this initial boolean bigger. So let's go pop into there. Let's do that. I'm gonna try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll revise, so to speak. So let's do 1.2 1.1, I think. I'm going to, let's see, no. Let's try 1.5 here as well. I'd say that's still not big enough. And the reason why I'm kind of hesitant, I read most words. I don't talk so much usually. It's streaming aside, of course. I do talk a lot of the stream, but to get to the actual point of it, a lot of words I learned through reading. And English is in fact not my first language, so do not judge me for my pronunciation. Right. This is this and this is that. All right. I'd argue we did enlarge the Boolean. That is fine. However, I think what I want to be doing is I actually want to make the initial sweep smaller as well. So that way we're making the Boolean a little bit bigger and the archway a little bit smaller, and hopefully by combining the two we could get something that is functional. So I'm just quickly going to adjust that a little bit more. See what that gives us. That does help. Right. In terms of the initial scale, that is determined here, so let's do 0.9 and maybe 1. Right, so that is highlighting a new issue. Why is it doing that? So that is fine, it's sweeping. What is this doing? It's a curve. Dissolve flat edges, that's all well and good. This gets swept. Let's remove our template. Right. And then, right, so I've adjusted the scale on the initial archway. I've not adjusted the scale on our Boolean. And this Boolean is what's cutting out the different areas we don't want. So these areas, right? So to fix that, what I'm actually going to do is firstly refine this, right? Because if we look at it at what level? This level, we can kind of see it's not tall enough. But I'm unsure whether that's about caused by the sweep or by the yeah, let's start here. We do need that. So maybe we need 9.5. And that's actually not too bad. That is actually not too bad. The section I don't quite like so much is the fact that this area is the exact same width of that area. I would argue that the centerpiece maybe needs to be flatter. Can we do that? Or everything else needs to be bigger. One of those. I suspect we might not be able to adjust that. Let's see. So we have that. That gets extruded out. In. So I'd say it's this distance that needs to go more like that, possibly. Yes. Alternatively, we could make that piece go outwards more and have the exterior pieces be thinner. But I actually like it as it is, so I don't think I'm gonna mess with it too much. I think that's fine. I don't love what it's doing here though. So well, let's see. Now, I mean, you can't really see it from the top, just from the bottom, but it looks very wonky. Right, let's see what we're gonna do. Am I gonna fix this? Am I gonna fix this? Does it bother me enough to fix it? Probably not. Let's leave it for now. Let's get it functional first, then we can bother about making it all pretty. Right. Let's see. Right, so next thing, order of business. Order of business, getting on track here. Is I want to do similar to these pieces, these side archways. However, we are going to run into an issue just due to the fact that there's, quite frankly, not enough space in between these pieces to accommodate that. There's just not. So what we can do is either make these arches smaller, which is an option. I was going to give more options, but I actually do think I'm going to make those smaller. So let's do that. Just quickly figuring out what is where. I think this initial box is the problem. So let's do 4. Now we will have to mess with placement. I lie. We will not have to mess with placement. Thankfully, it is relatively centered, at least in the way that I would want it to center. So I'm not going to bother placing it further. It is a-okay. What I might, do I want this arch to be wider? To be more impressive, so to speak. Choices, choices, choices. Let's test it. Let us test it. Can we make this 2? Is that big enough difference? Probably not. Let's try 0.4. Let's try 0.4. I might regret this, but we're gonna try it. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. That means we need to do the same adjustment over here. So that is this one, and then we are already making it wider? Apparently. But why is it so much smaller than the other one? There's also a gap up here that we'll fix at some point. But why is it thinner but bigger? I don't get that, I'll be honest. Is it Boolean related? Let's see. But that shouldn't affect the inner portion, because it's not cutting over to the front. Okay. But it is in fact. Oh, right. So we're cutting away the inner portion of this. Right, so let's change that to 1.75 again. It's fine. What we're going to be doing is actually shrinking this a little bit. So let's go to our transform and we actually make it a little bit more skinny, maybe 1.5. I'd also argue this is too big because it's actually cutting through this edge, but okay. Let's see. Let's see what we've got. Now I absolutely hate that. I absolutely hate that. That is cutting in too far. Right, let's fix it. Let us fix it. So that is going to be up here in this transform. I've not set up anything that is, how do I put this? I've not set up anything that allows me to control the different elements yet. I will be doing that. For example, maybe I'll have one to adjust the scale of the profile. Maybe I'll have some things to adjust placement. Maybe I have an option to remove some of the arches. We'll see what we do in the end, but bottom line is that will be coming at some point. Let's put that at 1. 1 is too big, so let's do, I think, well, let's see what we've got. Maybe it's fine. Okay, so that is not enough. Also bear in mind that by scaling this, I've actually messed with my different extrudes as well. I wonder if we're maybe not better off scaling it down here. The downside to this is my extrudes won't scale evenly. Which is good. Let's not be lazy about this. Let's not be lazy about this. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'll fix the initial, let's say the initial. I'll fix the extrudes. So let's see, that's going to be probably 0.8. 9. Let's do 0.9. No, not divide by. And delete channels. There we go. Now again, you can notice this is breaking things. It's fine. What I'm actually going to be doing is checking to make sure I'm actually including everything I want to include. Right, so that's fine. That gets fused. That is fine. First extrude is, let's remove our template. That's all well and good. That's fine. That's fine. That's also fine. Bevel. Right, so that should now be better. Yeah, why not? Right, we have liftoff. We've got progress. Did I think it would take me 20 minutes to fix this one area? No, but that just means I ended the previous stream at the right time. Right, so we want basically the same thing for these sides. However, I am seeing a slight problem. This archway is possibly slightly too tall. So, is that the sweep that's the problem, or is it the Boolean? Probably the Boolean. So let's do 0.1. Yeah, that's better. Right. So, we want basically, what do we want? These, I think. I think we want those. Right. And then we want specifically the arch. These are getting split out. That gets Boolean. Right. Let's see. We are looking for the sweep. So that is going to be here. Right. So I think at this point we can probably start connecting these up. I lie. We don't want the sweep. We want the Boolean. So that is going to be that one. Don't necessarily want the Boolean group though, because this is a separate Boolean specifically for the sweep. Right. So that gets inset, or grouped rather. So how are we going to do this? Start off with that. I want the top, but I don't want those. I think we're probably going to be better off with a box. I think we're going to be better off with the box select rather than a normal select, just due to the way the normals are flowing in this portion here. So let's pivot. We're not going to keep our normals. We're going to keep our bounding box. Alright, we're going to initialize and then we are actually going to scale. So that is going to be in the Z direction, I think. Alright. We're going to include partially. I would technically only want those. However, I'm not liking what it's doing over here because that's going to create an absolute nightmare with the sweep. I wonder if we grab this before the bevel. Let's do it. The problem with that is we do actually need the bevel. So what if we create its own bevel and have it only affect the left and the right, usually using the specific inset to determine that. So let's do that. Plop that into there. That is going to be this group. Can I actually get everything within the group? Edges. That's not what I want. Why are you being annoying? Let's see. Oh, that's a group. It's another group. I've created another group. Let's do a polybevel. Let's see. It's going to be that one. Alright. And then we could specify group. What is this mess? That's going to be a edges group. Got these center edges though. Don't like that very much. But anyway, it is functional now. I'm not sure whether I changed the values on this, so I'm going to duplicate that again just in case, because I do want these to line up. However, it needs to be insert. There we go. We have liftoff. Yeah, sure, you can still do a fuse, group lead, poly extrude. No, actually we don't want a group lead. I think we do not want that, so I need to get rid of that. We do want this. I am slightly concerned by what this template is doing. Apparently it was a valid concern. Okay, we'll address that down the line. Let's focus for half a second. Fuse is fine. Poly extrude. I'm going to remove this template. It's driving me up the wall. Okay. So we've got that, and then we can do nothing apparently. Because this is an edge group. This is an edge group, that is why it's not doing anything. Right, let's pivot. We do want the same group, but we actually want this one to be primitives. There we go. We've got it. So that's going to be 0. Alright, that's going to be 0. Now we also need to keep in mind that the arch is actually significantly more narrow. I'm not quite sure what the exact scale of it is though. So let's... Are we going to have to template this? Probably. Let's template that. And then we can actually adjust the scaling of this. So let's do a transform. Right, so that is probably going to be something like 0.8. No, it's probably going to be, let's try 0.6. Maybe 5. Should have went to 5 from the start. However, that is giving us this mess where it's actually beveling everything, which I don't think we want. So let's quickly take a look at that. We'd probably want the bounding box, the initial bounding box, to be significantly smaller. All right, so that should resolve that. Then we've got the fuse, the group for the insetting, and all of that. For this group, we might actually want by normal direction rather than by. Okay, we'll run into the same issue there, right? Shrink that down, and then we can poly extrude there. That gets poly extruded there. Got that. That is now functional. And the poly bevel. Brilliant. Now, our next issue is that this is obviously too big. In one regard and too small in another. So we'd actually want this to be a little bit lower in the world, just so, or just a little bit bigger alternatively, just so it doesn't round out the bottom, because we don't want that inner corner to be rounded. So what I'm actually going to do is we'll scale this maybe by 0.1. And that just broke everything, of course. Let's initialize. Don't initialize. Yeah, we're going to be lazy about it. We're just going to adjust the height. I lie. We'll have to manually adjust things in a moment. Let me just quickly get our sweep back so I can see what's going on here. Right, so I do think the height is in fact correct. However, I do want to be adjusting the possibly the placement. So let's, there we go. Right, so that is all well and good. It seems like my stream is starting and stopping. I should check that. That is indeed the case. Sorry guys, I'm not sure why it's doing that. I'm not sure why it's doing that. It quit out at halfway through? Quite frankly, I've not checked. Right, sorry guys, we had technical difficulties. We are back. I'm not quite sure why it's crashing out. Thank you for the heads up that it's crashed. Not sure why I did, because actually, let me just check my Wi-Fi. Let's do a Wi-Fi test. Because I don't think it's saying, I don't think it should be Wi-Fi, because actually we've got the 0% drop frames, which is supposed to mean it's functional, but we'll say in a moment. Did it just crash again? Please no. We've got no Wi-Fi. We've got no Wi-Fi. That is the issue. Right. Hopefully we can make this work with limited Wi-Fi. If not, I'll have to end the stream, but we'll see. I'll keep a closer eye on things just to see what it's doing. Right, so that goes into there, that goes into there, that goes into there. That is all well and good. Let's template that. Right, so now, as I mentioned, we'll now need to take a look at the overall scaling of things. I think what we'll probably do is adjust the width to maybe 0.9 and then adjust the height by actually pulling it further down. I might regret that. Right. Now this needs to get boolean out of the initial sweep, so let's add a boolean subtract. That's going to go, that is going to get cut from this one. Brilliant. Now, obviously we are going to run into a similar issue we did before. And that is the fact that, beyond the fact that this is cutting through that area, let's do 4.5. Not 0.45. Just 4.5. Right. And that is that this archway is most likely bigger than we want it to be, but let's quickly check that. So that goes into there, that goes there. And let's check it. It's not terrible, but it is not perfect. Stream crashed again, didn't it? Let's check. It in fact did. Right, so what I think we'll be doing, let's see quickly. Did it crash again? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I think we're okay. Possibly. Right, so what I'll be doing is I'll be adjusting the scaling. So let us see what we can do here. That gets brilliant, and that gives us this, so that is fine. Our next area of contention is, let's pop that into there. Merge that and there, that gives us that, right? I've lost the plot somewhere. So which one do I have to scale? Probably, my brain is officially dead. Alright, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so let's try this one. It might not be this one. No, of course it needs to be height. It needs to be height. Alright, so that gives us that. We don't want that. It seems to be that the initial boolean is not cutting enough away. So what we can actually do is adjust the height on this. Let's do, I am marginally concerned about that. So our problem is if we adjust the scale there, that's going to break everything on that side. So let's not do that. Let's instead do it over here. Let's do it over here. So that's going to be a transform. That gets plopped into there. And in terms of scaling, we do like 0.05, sorry. See if that improves things. It might not. We'll see. If it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, we'll fix it. Right, that actually fixes it to some degree, I think. The only part I don't really love is what's it doing over here. But we're going to ignore that for half a second. Because it's probably not booleaning the side away enough. Okay, that's fine. Let's scale it. That'll be 0.05 as well. We've officially left off. We've got that up and running. It's lining up there. It's not lining up here though. Will I really have to adjust this further? I would really prefer not to, but okay, let's do 0.8. Okay, so that's not going to fix it. Not sure which. Yeah, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it. We're not gonna fixate on that. Or at least we're going to try not to. Right, continuing. What else are we working on? We want the top floor as well, and we also want the cylinder detailed. I'm wondering if we should maybe work on the cylinder, the tower, so to speak. Maybe add a roof to it. We could do that. Or, you know what? We're gonna add a roof. There is no or to this. We are just going to add a roof. So that is the tower. Now, should I be working on the center floor instead? Yes, yes, I should be. But towers are fun. I like towers. Let's work on the tower. Most likely we'd want this match size to actually be way down into the network. Because it's always easier working with something when it's at the center of the world. So I'm quickly going to check whether No, that is there for a reason. Reason the match size is if that location is most likely because I didn't want the extrude affecting things. So, general rule of thumb, yes, it needs to be at the center of the world. In this case, I'm going to ignore that rule and we'll be working not at the center of the world. There's no other way to put it. We'll not be working. Right, so in terms of this tower, I want windows added and I do want archways added very similarly to what we did for the rest of the building. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab them. We want basically the same thing. So we would want that and this. Now obviously naming is wonky on this, but no, I want all of this. Give me, there we go. There we go, and obviously we don't want that into there. Right. So, in terms of this as it is currently is too big. Way too big. So let's quickly transform this and template the tower. Alright. So we want, I'd say at least half the width. So let's start by scaling this down. Let's check what that's doing from the front view just so we can see what it's doing width-wise. And I'd argue that width is not too bad. It's not too bad. So let's keep that width, but we multiply the height by like 2.5. Now, obviously, we want this to be placed correctly. So something we're going to have to think about is the Boolean itself. How are we going to tackle the Boolean and the placement of these arches? Because I would potentially want a lot of windows. I maybe want windows on both sides. So I'm sort of thinking about that at the moment. I don't think I want a window to the left or to the right or in this. What do I? Do I want a window here as well? Do I? Maybe. I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. Right, so what I'm going to be doing is we are going to use match size. And this match size will have two functions. The first function is going to be to determine the height of the placement, but the second use case for it will be to actually put the Boolean on the exterior. We've done similarly before, and then I'll be copying to points. No, I lie. I'll be doing a copy and transform to basically rotate it around, which technically means I'm going to have trouble rotating this. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Because ideally I'd want the Boolean to be on this corner and then copy around and then. Alright, and I've just noticed something else. I want a doorway on the left and the right. So that means I don't have enough segments on this tower. If I want a doorway that basically crosses the bridge and goes through the tower, I need to adjust the amount of segments on this tower. So let's quickly do that. I was not initially planning to add more segments to this because I do like the shape. However, oh, I just broke everything. Fantastic, brilliant. Right, so we do have that. Now that's all well and good, but if we look at it from the top view, you can see these segments line up over there, which I don't want that. So let's do a rotation. Do a transform. This transform gets placed into there, and then we can rotate it. I would say it's going to be 22.5. Is that really going to be 22.5? Yes. Yes, it is. Brilliant, I think. Okay, we'll work with it. Is it what I plan to do? No, it's not. And I, in fact, absolutely despise the way this is rotated. But anyway, bottom line is now everything should, in theory, line up. So, in terms of this, let's quickly view it from the front. I suspect it might be too wide. It might just be too wide, so I might want to... Let's place it first. We can always adjust, and then we're going to grab that one. Our network is kind of crossing over each other in a way that I'm not fond of, so let's just quickly do a slight cleanup on this. Alright. Now technically we would want this to be on the left, just so that that match size doesn't crush over itself. However, I don't think we technically have enough space for it, so let's quickly drag these over. Right, that gets match sized. Brilliant, that plops it into the center. I don't like the area where it's match sizing, so what I probably do want to do is plop that into there. That places it completely in the center, which is fine, but I don't... Can I do... I don't want this to be at the top. I want it to be like slightly... Okay, we'll deal with it. We'll just lift it up manually a little bit. And then obviously this is way, way, way too short. We actually... I say that we could potentially shorten this entire thing, or keep it at the center. Should we keep it at the center? You know what? We're going to, but we'll add something, some form of interest at the bottom. Maybe we'll bevel it. Maybe we'll do something just to counteract that and make it look better. So in terms of this transform, what we probably want is a little bit more height. Yeah, that's about good. Right, so that is one section sorted. Our next problem is this is obviously centered in the world. We don't want that. So what I will be doing is actually adjusting this in the Z direction. Can we do max? Yeah, we're going to do max, and then we'll pop that a little bit outwards. Because we don't want that deep of a window. That should be fine. That probably tells me that my boolean is too big, so let's put that at 1. And then we can adjust that placement a little bit. Right. Now, this is obviously very plain, very boring. We need to add further detailing to this, so we'll be doing similarly to before, and we'll be doing a sweep. However, I think we'll probably have to duplicate this transform. That'll get swept. Hello. What is this mess? The profile is way too big. Let's put that at 1 and that at 1. I'd argue that's still too big. Let's quickly change that just to a square tube. I just want to see what it's doing and why. It almost looks, I don't know what it looks like, but I don't like that. Why is the thickness not even? Oh, we've got a scale long curve? No, we've not got a scale long curve. And I was so positive it had to be that. Right, so it's not that. Do we have anything on here that's determining scale? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. That is obviously that's not scaling. Could it be a rotation thing? But no, because we've voided the first input. And even if we make this skinnier, it's still doing that. Which is all very weird. Alright. I absolutely despise that. What does a ribbon look like? Oh, ugly. Maybe. What if we rotate the ribbon? Have that as the exterior and then extrude inwards instead. I suspect it's partly normal related. So let's take a look at that. Let's see. Let's do 90 degrees. And that's even, right? That is even. So we could technically use this to then extrude inwards, and that should give us a square. I say that and watch it break. It's gonna break, but we'll try it. We'll try it. Maybe it surprises me. Um, we'll probably be best off extruding outwards, and then I do want to reverse this. I want to outward back as well. Let's reverse it. Right, bear in mind, scale is going to be off. Why? Because we're extruding outwards instead of inwards. So the way the sweep works is it actually sweeps around the center point. So that means it's going a little bit in and a little bit out, but now it's only going outwards. So this may be a factor when we start actually placing the thing, and yeah, we'll deal with it if and when. Let's take a look at this before. It might actually be fine. Let's do a merge. So the point of the merge is just to get it all condensed into one place. I will be splitting it back out, but I want it merged so I can get away with only one match size. Because I don't want to be using match size upon match size upon match size. If I ever change the values, I have to change all of them. So I want to basically avoid that. So that's getting merged with that. Now this is technically just a square, so it's not a very interesting window, but it does the job, so we're going to keep it for now. What I'd like to do is, yeah, we're going to split by group probably, so let's add a group, and that is going to be sweep. It's going to be sweep, and no, why did I do that? It's the wrong place. That's going to go into there, and then we'll grab the boolean, so that is this one. No, I don't want both of them. Do I want both of them? Yes, because that's going to get plopped into there, and that's going to get plopped into there, and we actually need to remove one of these. Alright. And then that needs to get a group. It's going to get a group, and that is going to be boolean. To keep it very, very simple, that's going to be boolean, and then these get plopped together, and that will be merged. And then once we've done the match size, we technically want to split them out. But maybe we should copy and transform the fish. Choices. The placement of these might be slightly off. That should be fine. That should be fine. Let's keep it like that. Right, so what we're going to do, I think a mosquito just bit me, but anyway, we'll work with it. So, hang on, let's see. Let me do that. It's actually not very warm, but warm enough. Right, so focusing for half a second here, let us get our copy and transform. Alright. So what we will be doing is taking this value, copy that parameter, paste it into the rotation, and then divide by, no, I lie, 360 divide by, no, not 4. There we go. And now we can get this. Right, so this outlines our next problem, which is it's too wide. So what we'd probably want to do on the match size is actually push them further out to perhaps there. However, that now means our arch, I say arches, no, arches are too wide. So let's fix that. That is going to be this one. So that is the width, so we probably want half that width. So let's do 0.5. And then we actually want to thin the other parts out as well, the sweep specifically. So let's do we want even less than that? Possibly. Do about that much. And then we can obviously bring that match size further in again. Not all the way in though, but enough inwards. I would want probably maybe half. And that is no longer intersecting. Brilliant, we've left off. Right, so what I want to be doing next is actually doing the Boolean. So let's grab Boolean. Bearing in mind, we do need to split these out again because our Boolean and our archway are now one piece. So we were doing that with a split node. We could also cheat and just do split unconnected points. We could test that at some point, but yeah. Let's stick with split for now. We are going to do Boolean, and Boolean is going to get plopped into there, and then we need the archway, which is going to be plopped into there, which gives us this. Now, initially, as this setup, we've got windows all the way around, all prettily and boringly. So we don't actually want that. So what I will be doing is on the Scapulian transform, I'll be switching this around. Can I do that though? Can I do that? Because I technically only want half to be affected. I wonder if we can delete half using a group by range. My thought process is, so it needs to be selecting primitives, but it needs to select 4. No, that's faces. That is faces. There we go. We have liftoff. Absolutely brilliant. Because we want those, and then we want to mirror that. Can I invert range? Absolutely brilliant. Houdini, brilliant. Now we can blast this out. We can blast this out, remove half. That is going to be group range. No, we're going to give this a name so we actually select this properly. Blast. Why not? We're calling this a blast. So that gets plopped into there, that gets plopped into there, that now gets plopped into there, and we've got nothing. Why have we got nothing? We've lost our Boolean group. How is that possible? Let me just quickly grab a geometry spreadsheet. I just want to see at what point we lost our thing. Right, within the group range already. I don't want it to delete my other groups. How annoying. Why? Collision group, connectivity, no, we don't want any of that. Are we going to have to copy and transform these separately? I really don't want to do that. We might have to though. Let's see. At the copy and transform point, match size. I'm losing it at the copy and transform. Is it because I'm packing and instancing? It is. It is. Alright. But I need that for that. Right, we're pivoting. We are pivoting. We will be doing this separately. Is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. But it is going to be functional. So what we will be doing is splitting these out. And I'll basically use this twice. But I can't do this. Does this mean I'll have to do match size twice as well? Because I needed to. Yes, it does. Okay, we're completely pivoting. Unless we split afterwards. Let's try something. What if got that gets blasted? No, but we want to split it before we copy it. And then the group range will still blast it. I want to see what it does. It's probably not going to. Yeah, it's going to destroy everything. Okay, that's not an option. Forget it. Okay. Pivoting again. This is sort of the nature of modeling in Houdini. You confidently go into something thinking you know what you're doing and you know what you're planning to do and you know exactly how you're going to execute it. And once you actually dive into it, it does not work the way it's planned to. So bottom line is our main issue is actually the merge. We need a way to bypass that. So what I'll be doing is actually duplicating these across. That'll get plopped into there, which gives us that. This one is now that. Then we need the copy and transform and the group range and the blast. Could we merge before this? Probably not, because we do need. We could probably adjust at the group range point. Probably. And merge down there. But let's leave it at this just for a moment so we know that works. And now I'm going to add these groups back in. So that one is going to get plopped into there, and then the other one is going to, let's connect that back up. Let's plop that into, yeah, right. So now we've got groups again. Now we can do a merge. And do we need to do this merge there? I think we can bypass the merge now because we've already got them swept out. Oh, swept out. Split out. We've got them split out, so we could work around that. So that gets boolean in theory. But that is in theory. Let's quickly template those. So that is functional. That is giving us that. The boolean is going to be the boolean group. Why are you not subtracting? I didn't even think we need a boolean group. Is it due to the packing and instancing? It is. If we pack, we just need to do an unpack, don't we? Can we do an unpack? Yes, we can. We can do an unpack. Would that void our issue on the other side for our initial combined network? Possibly. Possibly. However, I'm not confident, so I'm not going to bother with that too much. Let's do a merge. Brilliant. Now that archway is too big, and we've not got a bottom. We've not got a bottom. So let's quickly jump into here. And I actually do want this to join like that. I lie. It's still not working. Why are you not working? That is functional. That gets match sized. That gets copied and transformed. That gets grouped. That gets blasted. The bottom is there. I'm just blind. The bottom is there. Right. So some parts I'm not liking is the fact that this is actually too big. So I would argue we'd actually want to, could probably try and offset this, but there's a big chance, but it's actually the scaling that's off. And it is. Right, so we want this to be slightly shorter than the original, or than the boolean itself, just due to how it's set up. So let's try 2.7. That's closer. Not quite right there. Let's try 6.5. Perfect. However, I don't like that this is sticking out so far, so we might want to adjust this a little bit. Let's take a look at that match size. Let's do 0.15. Yeah, it's fine. Right, before we actually boolean this, I do want to mirror it as well. So let's do mirror. I'll delete the sweep group in a moment because we no longer need it. So that will get mirrored in that direction, and the same with these guys. Brilliant. And then we'd have a door over here. Lastly, what I want to be adding is I actually want to boolean, oh, not boolean, I lie. I want to bevel the bottom. So let's take a look at that, and that is going to be in our initial tower. So we've got that, gets transformed, grouped. So we basically want the inverse of this. Can we inverse? Do minus? Yeah, Brilliant. Right, so from there we can add a bevel. Yeah, that one, poly bevel. I'll do some organization in a second because it's driving me crazy. But anyway, where are we group one? Right, and then this will go into there instead. I'm basically trying to check where everything is going. That goes into there. And I think we can now delete. No, I lied because we actually need both of these. We need both of these because we do need the top as well. Okay, wait, let me undo that. Let me undo that. We do need this group, but this is getting too cluttered. It's getting way too cluttered. But I'm slowly losing my mind, but okay. So that gets poly extruded, that gets poly extruded. So what we actually want is this one to pop in the end here. And then if we check that is still well and good, we can add that poly bevel. I don't need both sides. There we go. And then we can ignore flat edges again. Right, let's see what we've got. I want more of a point down there. Let's do that. We'll need very high stairs though. Let's quickly look at what it's looking like all together. This needs to actually go. What is this? This is that. So this needs to not connect up at that point. Actually needs to connect up at this point. Right, so that's going to give us a new issue. The windows don't actually fit there. And not only that, but they're facing the wrong way. They're mirroring that way, which we do not want. We could do a quick transform just to see what it'll look like, but regardless of that, this will always cut off. So that is actually not an option at all. What we could do is we could make the initial cylinder bigger. We can try that. Let's try 0.8, 0.8. I suspect though we'll have to make it too big to make it fit. Right. How are we going to battle that? The alternative is we just do two windows, one in the front, one in the back. It wouldn't be too terrible. Choices, choices, choices. Now the big question is, do I want to compromise on this or am I willing to sit through to edit this and fix this? Because let's take a quick look at the top. Now see, this would have to go so big in order to actually counteract this. Too big. Right, we're pivoting. Let's actually view it from the front this time. That should simplify matters. So we're actually going to void both copies and transforms. I'll explain why in a second. Why have you broken? Right. Group arrange, that's fine. Oh, that is not fine. We don't want that. We don't want the blast. We don't need that back. We do need a mirror, but let's just ignore that for now and get this functional. Right, so that works. So we need to do basically the same thing on this side. We need to ignore the group arrange. We need to ignore the mirror. The mirror we can use, but we actually need it to face the opposite direction. We need to mirror in that direction. So let's quickly copy that across. That gets plopped into there. That goes into there. Boolean merge. Right, so that gets connected up to the rest of the network, and we get this. But what if I want something there? I might want something there, but okay, we'll run with it and hope for the best. Next order of business. There needs to be a door at some point. That can wait. And then this is functional on the back. It is a-okay. Next thing I want to add is maybe some inner window frames or inner frames inside the window. Do I want to do that right now, this second though? Probably not. All right, we are moving over to top, but maybe I want a little detail here. I did this as an archway, but what if we do it as an oval? I did it, well, oval is arch still. But what if we trying to think how we can make this more interesting? We could enlarge it so that it actually fills the full space, which I'm tempted to do. Though, this is the downside of not having an actual concept to follow. You have to decide everything. Do I want this? Or do I want that? Or do I want something in between? Or what do I want? At this stage, I really don't know what I want. However, it is coming along slowly, very, very slowly coming along. Right, let's see. Maybe we should add the fence. For the railing, sorry. It's not a fence, it's a railing. Let me think. Because the railing is going to come with its own obstacles. We're going to do it. However, the main obstacle of this railing is going to be how are we going to determine that we want specifically that edge? Because we can't do by normals because, quite frankly, the network has gotten too big. The alternative would be to do something like we did with the archways and actually do the selection prior to the Boolean. Right, let's try that. Firstly, going to figure out where what is. So that is side arches. No, I lie. It's not. It's something I've top arch Boolean. There we go. So specifically these guys. Right. So that gets match sized. We would want to do it before placement, after placement. I'm actually not too concerned when we do it. So let's do it here. We do need to do it after the bevel because we need to take into account that little up area, because ideally if stairs were going up there, we'd want railings for those stairs, wouldn't we? So we do need that portion. Otherwise, this would have been very, very easy. However, in this case, it's not, which is fine. We can work with it. Right, so we do want it to be after the match size. We could do it before the mirror. Yeah, let's do it before the mirror. I think the easiest alternatively, we could do this by bounding region rather than normals if we get stuck. So let's try normals first, and if I get stuck, we'll do bounding region. I prefer normals just due to the fact that I feel like it's a little bit more procedural due to the fact that Generally speaking, if I decided a shape is a shape, I won't edit it too much, so therefore my normals won't change. So that is something to bear in mind. In terms of direction, we want -1. Possibly 0. I don't want it affecting the sides though. I don't want those. I technically only want the center line. Can we do 1? This is in no x direction, so that's fine. If we change that to -1, what will that give us? That gives us this. We basically want the inverse of this. So let's try. This is the direction I thought it would go, but let's try that. Not 14, really? No. Okay, we tried. We're gonna have to do it this way. In terms of how we're getting rid of the sides, we might have to blast those. We might have to blast those. So we technically only want the center line. There's got to be an easier way to do this. If we only want the center line, I'm going to go against what I said we're going to do by bounding region, and then we'll initialize input, and then why aren't you including the bottom? Alright, let's move that slightly down. Brilliant. And then we actually only want like the bottom portion. This gave us a baseline, but it's not quite what I want, so let's work with it. We want this to be relatively narrow, so it's not selecting a bunch of stuff that we don't want. And then we can adjust the height. But again, this is more, it's not the way I initially planned to do this, but anyway. Alright, got that. Now, in terms of placing everything, we'll probably use the width of the initial box to determine the placement. In terms of left to right, that would be the plan. Now, this can be approached in one of two ways. I could do a sweep. However, the problem for sweep is that's just going to give me a square tube, which is brilliant. And we do probably need that, but we don't only need that. Alternative would be to actually do a resample of this. Do a blast so I can get just the edges. Actually, can we do edges to curve? Curve from edges, that one. That gets plotted there and we can specify a group. Yeah, okay. Again, placement will be determined down the line. I'm not too worried about the front to that create the fence. The railing, sorry, the railing. We've got it. Right, so let's quickly reduce that. Maybe something like that. In terms of the rest of it, let's do a box for the initial thing. So let's template that, view that. We want like 0.15 that size, probably less. Let's do 0.1. In terms of height, we would probably want 3 times the height. I lie, we probably want something like 8. Yeah, let's do 8. I'm not even sure whether that's small enough, but okay. And then we can do a copy to points. Along with the copy to points, the next thing that I don't like is that it's not centered. So let's copy that, paste. What did I do? Times. Am I gonna have to do like 0.5? Yeah, okay, but at least it works. Right, if I adjust that, that will work fine. Brilliant. So that gets plopped into there, that gets plopped into there, and then we get this. Did the stream just drop again? I hope not. I really hope not. 1, 2, 3. It did in fact drop again. Sorry guys, apparently my Wi-Fi is still not cooperating. Yeah. Right, so that gives us that. If we skip that, we get this, which is probably closer to what we want. Is it? Yeah, we're gonna run with it. Right, so that's the one part of it. The next part, we need a sweep. And then we will do it probably. I don't think we need the resample for this. Let's put that into there, and then we do round. Yeah, let's make it a little bit more interesting and do round. Let's template that so we can see whether our scaling is correct. There we go. And then that's not quite connecting up. We'll see if it's a problem in a moment. I potentially want to mirror this. Can I mirror this up? Minus. I want this to flip though. Huh. Let's do that. Okay, so that's that. We need this. I want it to go up. I don't want it to go down. Oh, that's rotation. Well, yeah. Okay, wait, let's see. Let's see what we can do about that. This is actually doing a whole lot of nothing. But I did specify. Okay. No change. Reverse, yes. Don't want to consolidate. Okay, we're not doing a mirror, we're just duplicating. So I say duplicating, can't really duplicate. What we're doing is a transform and then we're combining it again. And then let's do a merge. So that'll go into there, that'll go into there, and that'll go into there. Alright, so what we now want to do is actually change the height based upon the height of those. So that is going to be translation. There we go, that gets merged along with that. Brilliant. Is that a very pretty thing? No, it's not, but we're working with it. I just want to merge these down and together just to see what we've got. Right, so that's actually not bad. It's not as horrible as I thought. Is it boring? Yes, a little bit. It keeps crashing. I might have to end the stream here, guys. Let's see. Let's test the Wi-Fi again. If the Wi-Fi is too bad, I might end the stream here just so we don't have a bunch of notifications spamming everyone. Let's give that a second. It's actually not terrible, but it is dropping. We had a major storm yesterday and it crashed some electric cables. No, I lie. We did have a storm. During the storm, people actually tried to steal the electric cables, and due to that, so the storm itself did not destroy the cables, but the cables were destroyed. So due to that, we are having quite a bit of Wi-Fi problems at the moment. Don't like that it's doing that, but okay. So going to make a quick call. I think I'm going to end the stream here, but just because it keeps cutting out and I don't want to be spamming everyone with notifications. So thank you for joining me today, and we'll do a proper stream on Tuesday. So yeah, without further ado, bye guys.